And I say all the time, and I will say this to the top of my lungs, it is so crazy to me how we literally taught midwives and now it's being sold back to us and we can't afford it.
Hi, my name is Augustine Colebrook, and I'm the principal at Midwifery Wisdom Collective. I speak on this podcast about big picture political issues and the future of our profession.
Hey y'all, I am Jamara, and I'm a midwife. I'm also a birth justice activist, and this season I am looking forward to sharing stories of Black midwives and the communities they serve.
Hello, beloved birth community. I'm Angela Love, nurse midwife since 2004, preceptor, and mother. I have a home birth practice called Midwife Love and a national telehealth practice called Midwife RX. My mission is to keep birth choices available and to educate the next generation of midwives for our daughters and grandchildren. Matriarchy now.
I'm Leila Wyatt. I get to share with you the voices of student midwives from across the country and beyond. This season, we focus on those students who just graduated, are about to sit for the NARM, or did yesterday, and we get tips and tricks for you for what happens at the end of the student midwife journey.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, for our listeners, tell us who you are, what's your name, where are you currently, and where are you currently in your journey?
I am the amazing Chae Pounds. I am I guess kind of a midwifery student, but there's a Black elder midwife here who says, walk in your purpose, right? You decide who you are. Don't let people decide for you. So I say I'm a midwife. I've said I'm a midwife for years and years now. But with that being said, I am actually a midwife now. I have just finished all of my numbers. And I am I'm supposed to be going tomorrow to get my paperwork signed by my preceptor, so I can get all my stuff sent into NARM and hopefully test tomorrow. Well, if I'm going to send the paperwork tomorrow, maybe test on Friday. So that's where I am. So I guess if you want to compare that to something, I am at the point where you've pushed out the head, right? But it's that primip.
Pause in between.
Yeah, so like what's happening and you got that pause and now you're waiting for the shoulders to rotate. That is where I am. Everybody understands that, right? That's where I am. My head is hanging out and I'm waiting for my shoulders to rotate.
And vitals are all fine. And there's no
the baby
sounds
and
good, mom's fine. Birthing person is fine. Like,
everything is good. We're just waiting. And sometimes it happens that way. And then I'm going to come out screaming and yelling and my APGAR is going to be a 9. So it's fine. I'm not worried at all.
And where are you right now? Like location
geographically, I am in Slidell, which is right outside of New Orleans, Louisiana. I recently moved to Slidell, so I kind of work in what we call the North Shore, which is literally north of New Orleans, and in New Orleans, which is what North Shore people call the South Shore. So I work in both of those places. Nobody calls it the South Shore, but North Shore people though. Yeah. So Slidell is kind of in between, I guess. Between New Orleans and the actual North Shore. So I live on the in-between. So we go back and forth to births. Yeah.
So a couple of our listeners may know this and a couple probably don't, but I was born at a little house in Lacombe.
Okay.
Yep. So I grew up in Lacombe, Mandeville, Covington, Folsom area. And
so you know the North Shore and the South Shore thing.
I know, I do. Yeah. So my heart is like with you more than maybe other students because you are like in my area. And which we'll talk about this afterwards. I hope to come back to the area pretty soon. So yeah, there's all kinds of personal things behind.
Podcast. Don't try to surprise me.
Yeah, there's so many things that like I will pick your brain on later that like our listeners like don't care about. Maybe they will. And y'all, if y'all are listening and you still end up hearing this fun chit chat from the side, you've got to make connections with people. Like as much as midwifery is this small, you know, world and things like that, like tell me you didn't have to like bring somebody something good to eat and
it absolutely was a connection. There is a nurse midwife here. She's my friend. She's the godmother of my children, like, you know, and I was like, I want to be a home birth midwife, and she was like, great, you should reach out to Effie. But when I emailed Effie, it was like, yeah, okay, sure. And I was like, that didn't seem like the way I thought it was gonna go, because I was like ready to take her out for coffee, and I had this whole spiel, and I was like dressed up in my interview clothes, you know, because she like told me to come into the office. So I'm like dressed all up. I have all these things, but I think what happened is my mentor friend godmother called and was like, hey, Effie, I'm sending this person over there. You know, so I really think that's what happened. And then the same thing kind of happened with my other preceptor too, Melody. And Melody was like, oh, so who are you? And I'm like telling her all these things, and I'm spilling my guts, right? And then Grace is like, oh yeah, this is the person I've been telling you about. And I'm like, okay, right. Because you don't just walk up to somebody and they decide they're your preceptor. It doesn't happen like that.
There's always like all of these things happening under the water. And I get a lot of questions all the time. Like, how did you find your preceptor? Or, you know, how did you start midwifery? Or how do I find this? Or how do I do that? And I'm like, you don't know who you're talking to when you talk to someone, and you need to make sure, because it could be your next preceptor. It could be your next client, or it could be someone who knows someone, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a small world and you don't know who you're talking to. So, you mentioned you're in Louisiana, near New Orleans area, and why birth? Why midwifery? What brought you to it?
Oh my God, I'm here on accident.
No, you're not. You are. Well, I don't know. Keep going.
No, I truly am here on an accident. I was in college, like a normal 18-year-old. I did a year at Howard University, and I got sick while I was there. So I ended up coming home, and I went to a community college. And I had moved back to Memphis. I'm from Memphis. And I was there, and I was dating this guy, and I thought I was pregnant, right? So I'm like, oh shit. You know, like this was not the plan. So I remember like looking online, trying to find these things to help me. And I always tell people the two things I found was a doula and cloth diapers, right? Those are the two things that made sense to me. Around here, I am the cloth diaper queen. That's what they call me. I did not give myself that title. I just taught a cloth diaper in class like a week ago. I love it. So those are the two things I found. I reached out to the doula. Turns out I wasn't pregnant, but I was already interested by that time. So I went and met with her anyway. And I did my first training. And it was good. So I started like building a website and reading these books and doing all these things. And as life would have it, a year later, I like got married on a whim. Right. So that's what brought me to New Orleans. And when I came here, someone connected me to a person who's now in midwifery school. She's going to school to be a nurse midwife. Her name was Jamila, and she worked for Birthmark Doulas, which I work for them now, oddly. And she told me to reach out to sister midwife, reached out to Nicole. And I was like, okay. So I reached out to this person. She had a doula training. I was like, I already did that, but I'm going to do it again. So I took the doula training, and I was like, okay, I'm definitely all in. This is like maybe 2 years after the initial interaction. And I knew that this is what I wanted to do. This solidified everything for me. So calling my mom and telling her like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna go back to college. I'm gonna be a doula. And my mom was like, the hell? What? No, girl. What is that? What is a doula? You know, mom was like, I've never heard that word. That does not sound like a career path. Birth work, I don't know what that is. That sounds crazy. You know, like at first she really wasn't on board. And then the more I got immersed into the work, my mom became interested. And then I had my own baby. When I got pregnant, I hired a midwife. And I wanted to have my baby at home. So by then I was all in, right? My first baby was a home birth transfer, but I was already bought and sold on the idea of home birth. Like having my baby in the hospital felt very unnatural to me. So I was like, yeah, we're going to do this. I applied for school. I talked to my preceptor, not my preceptor, my mentor at the time. I'm like, I need to figure something out. Like, what can I do? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? You know, because I was so vigorated about doing the work, especially because New Orleans did not have a Black CPM. There was no Black CPMs here that I could call. So I applied for school. I actually applied to Indie Birth Midwifery School, and I like reached out to them like, hey, you should really have a scholarship for Black women, and it's actually absurd that you don't. And they were like, turns out we do, and you want it, right? So I got to go to school for free. If you know me, that's like such a testament to everything I do. Like if there is something that I think is wrong, I'm going to speak about it. And they were like, great. And they set up a scholarship program after that, actually, for a Black student and an international student. So I was the very first person to get it, me and a lady named Christine, who's in Finland. She's my friend. We're friends from across the pond. And that's how I got here. So I did the program and I was like, yeah. And then when I had my own home birth experience with my second baby, I knew it was like, it's a drug. You become addicted to the home birth. You know, I'm like, this is why people who are home birthers, they got like 7, 8, 9 kids. And you're like, why do they keep having babies? That just seems like a crazy idea. But it's because they need the high, you know. And I was so immersed into birth work. I was so invigorated and fueled up by the fact that there was no Black CPM here. What options do we have? We don't have to talk about the importance of having a Black provider. You know, we all know about that. But I'm like, somebody has to do it. And I am going to be that person. And I was I'm praying.
No Black midwives.
There are Black nurse midwives here in New Orleans. There are Black nurse midwives. They all work in hospitals because nurse midwives cannot work outside of the hospitals. But there are
no law in Louisiana.
Yes, that is a crazy law.
Oh, I'm so terrified. It's on my list to ask you about like the community.
Oh yeah,
right?
Please.
But I mean,
definitely is a law, and there are no, from where I am to the nearest CPM is West Baton Rouge, which is Miss Charlotte out there, and Miss Charlotte has a student, Divine, and then Chatamia, who's like in Lafayette. They're the closest Black CPMs. If you live in New Orleans, you're not driving 2.5, 3 hours to have a baby with a Black provider. You're not. There are no Black CPMs here in New Orleans. Once I get my CPM credential, I'm going to be.
And other people listening are probably like, same.
Oh,
you know, like it's everywhere.
Absolutely.
And it's so incredibly shocking, especially in the South, where, let's face it, midwifery originated, right? Like we're talking about Black midwives owning midwifery.
Yes. Yeah.
And now completely eradicated. And the highest mortality rates for mothers and babies.
Yes. Then you throw that caveat in there and it becomes a whole thing. It's what I very quickly learned was, it never dawned on me, like when I first started this process, that this was going to turn into some revolutionary thing and I would get at least 4 phone calls in a week because everybody is looking for the Black midwife that does not exist. My preceptor will be like, you got another call. You know, I very quickly learned that I was a part of this very strange club. I just saw someone, I think her name is Star August Ali on Facebook, at least. She's the first Black midwife of her state, the first Black CPM of her state, not of her city, of her state. She's only a few years older than me. That was absolutely, I can't remember what state it was, but that was absolutely insane. And I was like, wow, I don't want to be a part of this club. This is not the club that I want.
But you have to start the club, and you have to
somebody
grow the
has
club.
to start it. Absolutely.
I'm sorry that weight is on you. I mean, I think
it's a whole thing.
I think that for our listeners, this is like, it's a really tactile, obvious situation when we talk, because like everyone knows that we have a 1 to 2% home birth rate, and then a 2% of the home birth midwives are Black, right? So when you do that math, it's a very small number, but it doesn't really register until someone says, there's one Black midwife in the entire state.
Yeah.
Or city even.
Yeah.
Or region, right? Like that is a region. North Shore, South Shore, that's a region.
How can I serve a 3-hour region? So everybody that calls me that says, I want to be a midwife, I'm like, yes, great. Let me tell you what you need to do and where you need to go and where you put your pen to your paper. And this is what you do. Like I tell people all the time, I don't want to be the only one, right? Because that limits options for so many people. I can't take everybody, and then like now people are wanting a Black birth team. You can't get it. You can't get it. It's, I mean, sure, you can get it, but what does that look like?
Well, and that is kind of, there's not even traditional midwives.
No. The Underground Railroad lives, and I won't talk about it on this podcast. I'll say that. So there are like things happening, but not enough to where even that person is just 1 or 2 people who are like qualified enough,
right,
to actually
just
catch
decide
babies.
Not to get a license so they can continue serving people the way they would like to actually serve them.
Absolutely. And one of those people doesn't live here. She lives somewhere else and she visits here. So, so even that, then it's just one person, and then with the state that we live in, that's very much a risk. You're putting yourself at a very large risk, to work outside of the system that way, which some people are fine with, right? Because that sends us like full circle back to that thing of, this is the South, right? Where Black midwifery was literally birth. Midwifery in general was birth. And I say all the time, and I will say this to the top of my lungs, it is so crazy to me how we literally taught midwives, and now it's being sold back to us, and we can't afford it. We cannot afford this. We cannot afford to do the PEP process. We can't afford to do an apprenticeship. We can't afford that. Most Black women have degrees already. I have a friend who is a PhD candidate. Now she is going back to school to become a midwife. How do you afford to now take out loans on top of?
Right, because you've already maxed out all of your Pell Grants and all of your student loan numbers.
Exactly.
And that's not rare. Almost every single Black student midwife that I know has a bachelor's or a master's already.
Yes, absolutely.
They're now finding this midwifery path, so they've already maxed out those things. And honestly too, part of the studies are a joke to them too, because they're like, I literally have a master's in psychology and you want me to write a paper about how to communicate effectively? Like, can you move on and teach me the things I need to know,
It's a very I can't use any other word but like weird. It's a very weird like place to be. It's very strange when I meet other midwives and they don't have degrees. I'm probably one of the few that right? I tell people I'm a college dropout by choice, and I'm actually kind of glad I did it, right? I was going to school and I was like, oh no, because I found this other thing. So I really got caught. I was 2.5 years into school at that point, So a pregnancy scare too far down the road and I probably would have had that degree,
That is absolutely insane. And like I said, I think it's just a little bit more palpable hearing it.
Yeah.
And as far as knowing that. And so what's up with Louisiana? I've started to do some research, but I don't think our listeners know exactly. So for those listening, we talk with student midwives from all over this country. I have spoken with midwives in California and Oregon and Washington and New York and Virginia and Texas, Florida, all over. And everyone's states have different requirements. There is the NARM test that you have to take, which everyone, whether you go to PEP route or the MEEC route, everyone has to take that NARM test. But then when you go to practice in your specific state, sometimes there's extra regulations that you have to jump, or hoops to jump through in order to get licensed. And there's extra regulations that change depending on each state. It's like wild. And even my husband, we were talking about this last night. He's just like, it's so scary to think that you could literally cross a border and you have to like stop and figure out how you want to practice again. And something that's totally legal in one state is illegal in another state. So what's the deal with Louisiana?
Louisiana is trash. And I hope somebody from the board is listening to me say this. The rumor mill is, so here in Louisiana, if you are not having a very straightforward birth, right? We cannot attend your birth. We already said no nurse midwives, which is okay. And that rule only applies to like the places with the worst outcome. So like here in Alabama, okay? Like, and maybe Oklahoma.
Yeah, there's some states in which it is much harder to get a doctor's oversight for a nurse midwife to do home births.
Yeah.
And it's mainly because the nursing license part restricts
that's exactly what it is. Yeah. So no nurse midwives can practice at home. We don't have physician oversight, which, okay, that seems like a monkey wrench thrown in there somewhere. I think that's accidental. But we also can't get a lot of the meds that other states can carry. We can carry Pitocin and oxygen, which isn't a med. You can buy oxygen tank online. We can carry Pitocin and oxygen, and I want to say Methergin, but I could be wrong on the Methergin actually. But that's it. Like other things, like if our client needed a prescription, let's say if they had herpes, right? We can't prescribe them that. We have to send them to an OB. In other states, they can prescribe those things because they are the care provider. So we cannot do those things, which is very limiting. If you are having a home birth, you're going to go through extra testing. Like at the end, even though you've already been tested for HIV and chlamydia and gonorrhea, they are going to test you again. But specifically, if you're having a home birth.
Who's going to test you?
We are legally required to test you again. We do a blood draw again at 36 weeks.
Like by law?
Yes.
And if you say no, if they say no?
Some things they cannot say no to. If they say no, then they can't have the home birth.
And is it true? Is it true that you have to have a doctor's approval to have a home birth?
That is absolutely true. So we tell our clients that you have to go see an OB at least once, and for them to say in your chart, in your file, that you are low risk. Like, because if not, you cannot have a home birth.
And why would any OBs do that?
You wouldn't believe, like, when people call me and say, hey, I'm looking for a midwife, blah, 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 right? I say, do not say you're going to have a home birth. Right. Because your blood pressure will spike magically, right? You'll develop some weird rash. You'll and some OBs are better than others where they will say like, well, I don't suggest you have a home birth, but I can't stop you from having one. So that's about the best we can hope for. But some OBs are outright like, no. I know somebody who wanted to have a home birth, and she told her doctor that, and the doctor was like, if you do that, I won't sign your FMLA papers. Oh, absolutely.
And you guys can't sign FMLA papers as the midwife?
We can, but that's always a hassle too, because who are you? You're
not a respected medical provider.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. If you've had a cesarean section, we cannot catch your baby at home. A VBAC.
Even if the doctors sign off?
Even if the doctors sign off on it, they won't sign off on a VBAC. You're not low risk at that point. Even if it's been 10 years, they will not sign off.
What if you've already had, what if this is your
they won't sign off.
VBAC?
No. You're trying to put stipulations on it. If the answer is no. I've already said that. The rumor mill is a few years ago, you could have your baby at home if you've had a VBAC, right? But so many people, so the process was you would come to the midwife, you would say you want to have your baby at home. They would say, great, we need to fill out this paper and send it to the state. Okay. The state would say, yes, this person is low risk. We would have to send it to the board. Okay. The board would send it back and say, yes, this person is low risk. But as the rumor has it, this is a rumor, this is alleged, I wasn't there, I don't know. Okay, that's my caveat. But the board started sending the paperwork back later and later and later, because who cares about what the midwives are doing, right? So the midwives are just catching these VBAC babies at home.
Without the paperwork.
Without the paperwork, even though they sent it in, they never got the thing back, or they would get it back after the person had their baby, right? So of course they weren't going to hold up the process, because you can't get your paperwork in on time. So once the law caught up to all of that, or the board caught up to that, a law was then put in place that we can no longer do VBACs. That is the rumor of why home birth midwives cannot do VBACs. Not because there was some risk involved, not because, of some other thing that happened, but just because it was a paperwork issue. That's what the rumor is. I'm not kidding.
Other people may not recognize this, but it sounds like birth is just incredibly steeped in racism and patriarchy in Louisiana.
The patriarchy runs so deep here. Oh my goodness. Just the trigger ban on abortions that happened.
Right.
Whew. Oh my God. Oh,
I don't get why it's so different in every state. Okay, so right now I'm in Kentucky, and Kentucky just a similar political mindset.
Yeah, for sure.
But the autonomy for midwifery is like gold. I mean, like VBACs, breaches, twins, GDM, 47 weeks, 36 weeks, like.
No.
And all the meds.
No.
Right.
No.
And so I'm just kind of like,
if you have not went into labor by 42 weeks, literally, it could be 42 weeks on the day. And if you go into labor that day, it is illegal for us to stay at home with you. You have to be in labor by 42 weeks. Literally, it's a hard stop.
Who fucked it up for everyone?
I'm not
like
sure.
Who was it? Like, who wrote this bill? Who wrote this law? Or who messed up and made
I
this
really
happen?
think it became a hospital insurance thing, right? Because I don't know if you've seen the numbers, but Louisiana is very cut happy. We're happy to cut you open here. Okay. We do it with pleasure.
Well, if we just take Black women out of the statistics, we have better abortion.
Oh, and then there's that. Okay. So even if you take Black women out of it, okay, we're still happy to cut you. Okay. That was such a don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on that.
Sorry.
But yeah, we're very happy to cut you here. So, like that's a whole thing within itself. But once people realize that they can now have their baby at home, I think the VBACs were leaving, because we are a place that we believe once a C-section, always a C-section, right? So they were cutting people their very first time, knowing that you're still going to have 3, 4, 5 babies, because we're very religious and God says have all the babies. Okay. So you're going to be back for all 4 of your kids, and I'm going to give you a C-section for all of them. But they started to go home.
Who's
and
fighting
that became an issue. It's not me. That's not my fight today.
Yeah.
I don't, you know what? That's a really good question. There are some midwives, I want to say they're in Shreveport, but I could be wrong. They're trying to push back on legislation, but I don't know. It's such a weird place for me because I'm like, I just need to get the letters so I can at least serve the people who want to be served.
And can be served.
Yeah. And it's so crazy because you know where I am geographically. If I go 20 minutes to the right, we're in Mississippi, and they don't care.
Just as terrible rates, like, by the way, but
they absolutely do. Their law is literally like, are you a girl and you want to be a midwife? Okay, check. Everything else we don't care about. You a CPM, don't care. You a traditional midwife, don't care. She has 6 C-sections, don't care about that either. It's literally no loss. It's people who go over there and like they'll stay and have their babies.
Do people ever, I'm assuming, like, what about like the border of Texas and things like that? Because Texas has amazing laws too. So if you've got like a twin mom in care, you just like, listen, we're going to pop over the border and have a baby in an Airbnb and then pop home.
Yeah, I am almost sure people go over to Texas because we're right on the border. People go over to Mississippi. Yeah. I know that they do. You know,
but like you said, that's just not your fight right now. Your fight is like, let me be a midwife. Let me serve the 5, 6, 7, 8 Black women that are calling me every single week because I'm the only Black woman.
Yeah.
And I am going to serve who I can serve right now at the best capacity, become a preceptor, train more Black midwives. Like,
and you know what? That's my plan. I want to do this, become a preceptor. And then once I've trained 2 other midwives, then I want to be the one on the front line. And right now I tell people I'm really a spitfire and I am not refined enough to go talk to the state anyway. Right. So I'm like, maybe in my 40s, I'll be a little more polished. But right now I cuss a lot and I'm probably not the best representation for at least VBACs, right? At the very least,
just VBACs. To get your get VBACs. But also you'd be able to go with some statistics. You'd be able to go with some home birth study protocols and all in the experience. And that's going to change instead of coming in and just being like, hey, I think this is wrong. And here's my theory, you know? And
I get these calls all the time and I have to turn them away. Yeah, absolutely.
When you were thinking about going to midwifery schools and how to do it, you did Indie Birth.
Yes.
Why? Like, what made you choose Indie Birth over a Meek school or ancient? Why?
One, I can't afford a Meek school. I told you I was 2.5 years into college. That, and I already had like a little baby, so I couldn't like fly back and forth to do the on-campus learning. And I got
and it's pregnant. Not required. Louisiana doesn't require Meek.
No, Louisiana does not require Meek. I know somebody who didn't go to school at all. They did an apprenticeship and they learned on the job. So Louisiana doesn't. That's one good thing about Louisiana. They don't require some specialty schooling.
Right.
And I wanted to learn from people who did not have like a very clinical mindset, right? Because in my head, I am going to be the wise woman in the other room, right? When I get 80, that's what I want to do. I just want to show up.
Right, because to be sustainable, you can't be checking the cervix every 5 seconds and trying to stretch perineums.
So I wanted to learn a very left field model, things that were outside of the norm, what I would learn doing, a Meek accredited school. And I was a biology major, I'm very familiar with body parts and pelvises and all of those things already. So I needed some of the other stuff. I wanted what do they call it? They have a word for it in Indie Birth, but those are the things that I wanted. I wanted the out of the norm, out of the realm teachings, because in my head, that's what kind of midwife I am. It's a very
just learning the physiological process and how to support normal physiological birth.
Normal birth. Yeah. And how to be hands off, my preceptor always says like, we went to a birth together, and she was like, you didn't touch anything. And she was like, it's very rare where I don't see a midwife that doesn't touch anything. This was probably the very first birth that we did, maybe the second one. And she was like, I trusted you. She's like, I'm definitely more hands-on. She was like, but I trusted you, and I knew that you knew what you were doing, but
Right.
that's my jam, right?
Yeah.
I don't like to touch anything. I don't even like to catch the baby. And people are always like, well, what do you do? I'm like, nothing if it's a good day.
Right.
You know,
I protect it. That's all I can do.
I'm like,
protect safe
I am
birth.
here to sing and play the drums in my head and complain about the water in the tub. That is my ultimate job, you know. I said, if I'm touching something, then, you know, we've moved to a different level. I like to be very hands off. I listen to heart tones and things like that, mostly because the state tells me I have to. But if I didn't, if it wasn't a requirement, I probably wouldn't. Unless you really wanted me to, or unless that, you know, that midwifery intuition that you have said, we need to listen.
Just check on this.
Yeah, but I wouldn't listen every 30 minutes or every 5 minutes or down to every 2 minutes. I probably wouldn't do that. But I really wanted to learn like the crunchy birthy things, because in an apprenticeship, I'm gonna learn how to draw blood. You know, I'm gonna learn, you know, how to disimpact some shoulders or whatever. But I wanted to be in a space where I could be validated in my teachings of this really is a spiritual experience. This really is a magical experience. And sometimes we just do need to sit and witness and honor the space. We don't have to touch everything. It actually bothers me so much when I see those videos online. I'm like, why are you touching it? Oh my God, you don't have to do that.
Or it doesn't even have to be physical. It's what about what we say?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
If you ever have a chance, and maybe you have, and because it sounds like you've moved into that next phase of being a midwife, but it was, for me, it was someone like took a video of me at a birth, and I just wanted to vomit the whole time because I was like, good job. That's it. And I'm like, why am I talking? Why am I talking?
No, okay. I have the very opposite of that. Sometimes people have to say, like, are you there? Can you say something? And I have to say, what do you want me to say?
You're doing great.
Because I don't know what you want me to say. There's nothing.
No, there is nothing worse than some stupid ass midwife talking over you in your spiritual moment. There is nothing worse.
You got it. You got it. You can do it.
To me, it's because it makes it push. Well, it's because it makes it obvious that this midwife like thinks this birth is like about her.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that is not my jam at all. When I'm there and they're doing their thing, I'm like, hey, Dad, can you come here for a second? Like, this is your baby. I know we talked about this, but we're talking about it again. And you need to be ready to catch the baby. Are you going to faint? No? Great. This is your thing. Here's what I'm going to be doing. Listen to the heart tones and don't touch anything. I'll tell you, you know, when the baby pops out, I said, but you know, they get nervous.
She's going to bring the baby to you. Don't pull the baby out. Yeah.
I'm like, don't do any of that. The baby's going to come out. I promise. And you just be ready. I really don't like to do any of that. The placenta, somebody said, you're the most patient placenta watcher. Because I'm always just like, it's okay. Would you? And people are like, you know, get it out of me at that point. I'm like, do you want me to feel for it? I can feel for it. I can like, you know, do the things. Yeah. And they're like, sure. But it's 45 minutes later. And I'm like, maybe we should do something now because the state would like for it to be out in 15 minutes.
I was just going to say, is there a law?
Yeah. There
15 minutes? Oh, an hour. Okay.
Yeah. They like for it to be out by a certain time. I want to say it's an hour, but they do like for it to be out by a certain time. But that's one I'm always going to be like, okay. Because I don't know. I really do trust the process until I need to intervene. You know, I really am like sitting in the corner. I tell people that I love to sit in the corner and do nothing. That's what I like to
and
get
paid to do it.
Yeah,
exactly. Get paid.
I'm
Tell
like,
me,
if you paying
like,
me to work, that's not a good day for me.
how often do you have to intervene when you when
Oh.
your clients know that this is your approach? Does that make sense? Like, you are going to attract the people who get what you are.
If there is a substantial bleed, I'm gonna give you the pit. And people are always like, I like the herbs, and I'm like, yes, that's great, I do too. But if you're bleeding, I'm gonna give you the pit. I said, because I'd rather you be mad at me that I saved your life than you be mad at me that I let you bleed out. You know, if there is any issue with the baby, I tell people I'm probably more apt to transfer you if there's anything wrong with the baby, right? If the baby sneezes too hard, I'm like, don't like that. Just because, you know, the thing with a baby can be so fickle when they're first born. So that always has me on edge a little bit. Something else I transfer for, or that I intervene for. I feel like when a mama, I just recently had this, she was pushing for a while and she was just like, I just can't do it. I just don't know what to do. And I'm like, get out of your head. You do know what to do.
Get
And
out of your own way. Yep.
Yeah. Anybody who I've worked with, I'm always like, look, I'm a very straightforward person. Yeah. And in birth, I'm going to be quiet until you need me to say something. And when come on, girl. Yeah. And when you need me to say something, then I'm going to say a lot, you know? And one of my last clients I had a few months ago, she was like, I can't do it. And I'm like, no, you can. You'll come get her. And then she's like, well, what do I do? I'm like, I can put my hand here for support. And I'm like, push against my hand, you know?
Right.
So she did that. And one of the people who was there was like, this is the most hands-on I've ever seen you. I've never seen you touch anything that much. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? She said she couldn't do it, you know?
She needs something here. She needed something. Yeah.
A few births before that, maybe 2 or 3 births before that, I had somebody who's just like, I'm tired. Like, I really need to sleep. I need a nap. I'm like, girl, I'm going to have to give you a bag of fluids. I said, you really need a bag of fluids. And I feel like that'll help you. She had been ruptured for a while. So we talked about the antibiotics. I'm like, God, this is really looking like a transfer. I'm like, you know, but I'm going to pull out all the stops. So when it's looking like it's like slow rolling into a transfer, I'm going to do all the things so you can have, you know, that home birth, because people really want it. And it sucks to transfer, I know, you know. So we gave her the bag of fluids and she took a nap. I put an IV in. I hadn't slept all night. I put the IV in at like 4 a.m. and she's like knocked out. And then she woke up and she said,
I need to poop.
She said, do we have any drugs you can give me? I said, yes, we do. And she said, okay, great. I said, get up and pack your bag. We're going to the hospital. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, you asked for drugs. That's the only place they offer them. And she said, oh no, I'm ready now. 10 minutes later, she had a baby.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. She literally woke up and was like, is there something you can give me? Said, yeah. Let's go.
And then she was like, just that thought was enough adrenaline for her body to be like, vomit the baby out because I'm done. Yeah.
Yeah. I've done the same thing with like the catheter. I'm like, you have to pee.
Yep.
Or I'm going to give you a catheter. And they're like, oh, okay. I have so much pee in my bladder. I was just joking. Just joking.
Like that urethra has a mind of its own and it overhears this catheter and it's like, nope, I can open. Yeah. We're okay. I'm good.
Yeah. I'm like, I will do it. I've actually never placed a catheter. I've seen it done, but I've never placed one. But I always threaten people like, if you do not pee, especially when it's 2 a.m. and I've been here all night, I will put a catheter in you if you don't pee.
You're like, so I feel like that is my way of do before I go home.
Yes, I really need you to pee. I really need you to do that. Okay. And that is not even because of the state. That is because I need you to pee.
Right.
I need you to.
Right.
So that's my way of intervention too. Like sometimes I have to threaten people and I'm okay with that. And a lot of times my clients are too. And they're like, afterwards, they're like, I really needed that pep talk. And I'm like, okay, if that's what we're considering a pep talk these days, sure, you know.
I threatened you to leave, and all right, well, but again, you're going to attract that person, right?
Absolutely.
Speaking of, like, who's your people? Who are the people that you're serving?
Oh God. Honestly, if I never have to see a pink butt, I would be fine with that. But also, whatever, let's do it. I don't know who my ideal client is. My ideal client is somebody who can pay.
Yep.
I am on a whole tangent of that's my new rant. My ideal client is somebody who is not married to the tub. I don't love the idea of a water birth. If you talk to me for 5 minutes, you know that I am not a huge fan of the tub.
Why? Do you have
I'm
trauma?
5 feet tall. I'm 5 feet tall. Most of my clients are way tall. They're just bigger people. I am 5 feet tall and 98 pounds. I
so
look like I'm in the 7th grade.
Hang over the tub if you needed to.
Yeah. Yes. There has been a time where I was like, hold my feet, hold my feet, hold my feet, because I was going in. But what am I supposed to do? The baby's coming out. There was another time I was literally chest deep, like my entire chest was covered in shitty water. I was literally chest deep, and I don't wear a bra to birth because I can't think. Okay. So I'm chest deep in the water. My tits are like soaked in shit water. And I'm just like, oh my God. And the baby comes out, and I'm like, can somebody grab the baby? And she's just like, no, nobody move. Nobody move. And I'm like, oh my God, we really have to pull the baby up at any moment. So I'm telling the dad, I'm like, could you please grab the baby? I'm pushing the baby forward. Grab the baby.
Yeah.
So he grabs the baby. She grabs onto my head, and I'm literally stuck like in a mama cocoon, right? She has the baby on one side and me on the other. And she's like, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Chae. And I'm like, that is a weird placement, but okay. And she's like, let's say a prayer. So here I am, caught in the shit water and a prayer. And I'm like, amen.
The baby's out and crying and on her chest. The baby's
out crying. Everything is fine. And I'm caught between the mama and Jesus.
Which and after that, you were just like, no water.
I literally looked at my preceptor and said, I need to shower right now. I did not take a vital. I did not check anything. Anybody else can do this part. That is not me. I have never used a shower at a client's house until that day.
Except for that time.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I just so happened to have clothes in the car. I was like, how did I end up in this situation? There are clothes that fit me in my car. I have an extra pair of scrubs, extra pair of socks. Like I have the whole shebang in my car. I'm just like, no, I don't like the tub. I'm a small person. I fall in.
The people who can pay.
The people who can pay
aren't like, I want my water bird.
Yes,
right?
not those people. I will put up with the tub, but I really don't like it. And people who are also like me, who believe that, birth is very much a spiritual process, that, it's spiritual until it's not, right? I really don't want the people who are like, this is completely a, astronomical thing. And, I never need to check my blood pressure or listen to the baby. I don't want those people. Those people kind of freak me out. Even as a free birther, those people still kind of freak me out, because I was still like, no, somebody needs to listen to this baby. Go get my Doppler. I'll listen. With my last baby, I was like, this baby's not breathing. Somebody go get the bag. Right. I was wrong. The baby was breathing. She just didn't say anything. But I'm not opposed to intervention when it's needed. So I would love people who
aren't opposed
are like,
to that too.
Yeah, when it's time, then we do need to do the things. I would like my clients to be, I haven't had like a queer couple yet. I would love to serve a queer couple. That sounds weird saying it like that. That sounds like I'm trying to diversify my portfolio.
Yeah.
But that's
I know. Well, that's something I understand your statement. Yes. And I was going to push back on it, right? Like we can't like learn on Black bodies and like learn on queer bodies and right. Sure. Like that's a total thing. And yet what you're really trying to say is that you want to be the safe, culturally competent provider.
Yes, that is what absolutely. I want to, I want to serve everybody who's comfortable with me serving them. You know, I want people to have that option. And living in a state like Louisiana, it is very possible that you walk up on somebody and they are not a safe provider for you, whether they are a home birth midwife or not. So I want queer folks, BIPOC folks, all types of people just to have an option of all of those things that everybody, I feel like I'm the midwife that I'll try anything once and I may even dabble a little bit twice, you know? So I'm open to really being of service to people. And being of service is really what I see my job as. That's what my role, like, how can I be of service to you and your family opposed to being your midwife, right? I want to be a service provider. This is a service that I'm offering to you, right? And really it's a service that you're offering to me. One of my big things that every single birth I've ever been to, doula clients, accidental births I've walked in on, whatever, I'm still looking for the person on the side of the road too. Like I always tell them, thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you for being of service to you and your family. Thank you for letting me entertain this space with you. You know, I don't take it lightly at all. I take my job very seriously, and I do not take it lightly of where I am and how I am interacting in that space. You know, how I'm talking to people, how I'm addressing people, making sure I'm talking to literally everybody in the room when the moment calls for it. It's not something I take lightly at all.
Like you've really found an intentional space with how you practice. Is that something that you learned from preceptors? Is that something that you just like worked hard? Like I was talking to a student today, I was like, it's heart work, it's spirit work, it's head work, it's ego work. It is so much more than learning how to catch babies. It's like so much bigger than that. And not everyone can get there.
I don't think that's something I learned from precepting. I think that's something that just kind of developed within myself because I'm big on treating people how you want to be treated and having the day you deserve, right?
Yeah.
So if I am a part of your day and you're having a baby, then if I'm deserving of that space, then I should like
honor
put myself
you
on the back burner and let you be the spotlight, honor you, because I am deserving of your space and you have allowed me to be here. And honestly, that comes from me having my own babies, right? You should be honored that you are here to see the birth of the Pounds children, okay?
Yes.
That should be an honor to you. Please throw flowers at my feet. I'm not walking anywhere, but still, you know.
Get your cypress oil out, massage me.
Yes, do the things, you know. So that's how I treat other people because that's how I want to be treated. Like I tell my husband all the time, you should be honored that I let you feel my womb with baby.
I love that.
You should be honored. You should reverence in this, okay? And that's how I treat other people. I am in awe of you. I'm so, you know, I literally say that I'm honored to be here with you and your family today. I talk to the other children. I only meet a stranger one time. After that, we're family, you know. I talk to everybody. All of these people they're my cousins and my nieces and my nephews, you know. I'm T.D. Chae. So I really am. I think that's just something I developed along the way. Yeah.
So when you told me your story about how you found your preceptors, a lot of it just sounded like someone said, call this person. And she was like, hell yes. And then they said, call this person. And it was like, for sure. Tell me more, you know. Did you have any bumps along the way? Finding preceptors with preceptors?
No.
You know that's like a golden thing.
No. I say all the time, especially on my social media, I tell people this isn't a normal trajectory, right? I say I am supposed to be here. Once I found midwifery, once I found the calling of birth,
it was smooth. It was easy. It was like fell in your lapish.
I am ancestral of Black Mississippi midwives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense because I'm supposed to be here. I'm not here on accident. That's a joke, but I am supposed to be here. And because I'm supposed to be doing this work, my ancestors have quite literally cleared a pathway for me to walk it with ease, right?
Yeah.
And when I decide I'm going to quit, or if I'm like, I'm not going to birth for a month, I'm like bopped on the head and they're like, no, you are supposed to be here. This is your divine path. You take a break, but you get your ass back over here. Okay, we're going to a birth tomorrow. Or I get a call that I'm like, I can't turn this person down, like, or like, oh, I've fallen in love with this person. Okay, I'm just joking. So it really has been divine from the scholarship, the way I even came into birth work. I had no idea what a doula was.
Right.
The way I came into this, the scholarship, I had somebody pay for my books. There was a random person I've never met. I have no idea who she is. She said, I didn't get the scholarship, so I want to pay for your books for school. And I was like, shouldn't you be using that for your tuition? That was the strangest thing she did. She paid for my books for the first and second semester. And
she's like, I should have had a scholarship. I didn't ask about a scholarship.
Yeah.
And so you're badass and I want to support you. And here's your books.
I have no idea who that person is. I could not tell you her name. And she sent me the money. So like, not she bought the books and sent them to my house. She sent me the money and she just trusted that I was going to buy the books. Yeah. And I did buy the books because I couldn't afford them. I needed the scholarship, and then finding my preceptor. I literally walked in and I'm like, okay, in 6 months, I'll wear her down because I'm going to call her ass once a week. I got my game.
She immediately was just like, yes.
Oh yeah, can you be here July 5th? And I was like, I was supposed to go out of town, but sure, I'll cancel it. I wasn't expecting, like, can you be here July 5th? Sure. It's June 23rd. Like, this is no heads up. That's not what I was expecting. So even down to that, down to getting catches, COVID threw a monkey wrench in things. But even then, I felt like, oh God, the COVID. But COVID kind of slowed me down in the way that I was able to kind of make a very smooth transition from being a doula to being a midwife, right? Because I feel like there is a shedding of the skin, right, that you kind of have to do. And I really had to make a hard decision of, I can't take any more doula clients. Going to the hospital, I absolutely hate it. I will be your doula, but it is a pretty penny, okay? And I expect all my money up front because going to the hospital is, you can't have two providers in the same room, right? And the care that I provide is way different than the care that they provide. You might not even see that person until you have your baby. So it gave me a way to make a very smooth transition because now we're virtual doulas anyway. So I'm not even at the hospital. So I got to like step my way back. And even that, like looking back on it, was really good and beneficial to me. And I got to really come into my own being a midwife. So it's been a very smooth transition, and everybody cannot say that. My preceptor isn't like holding my paperwork hostage. I'm not going to sign this for you, or
you hear these horror stories.
Oh, yes. Yes. No, that has not been the case at all. You know, even for somebody to find now you need, for NARM, you need two preceptors. So even to find two preceptors, that was not a hard thing to do, you know, and I don't know, it's been a very smooth journey.
And like also talking about something that's just literally one of the saddest and hardest things that I learned through my journey. But I'm in an area where we have traveling students that come up here because they are Black students in a place with no safe preceptors. And that for me was like, again, more just like tactile, physically in my world now, if you want to say that. But someone, they're like, oh no, if I just show up, I could get a shotgun in my face because I live in a space where racism is prevalent, and my preceptor won't fight for me. And they are not really safe providers for Black women. So much, why would they be safe for preceptors, right?
Yeah, for
and
sure.
so, you were able to, I don't want to say skate that bullet, but that's
in a way,
something
no, because we're in New Orleans. So when we're in New Orleans, it's fine. When we travel outside of New Orleans, I'm always like, I'm going to ride with you to the home birth. I mean, not to the home birth, to the home visit. I'm going to ride with you. Or even if it's a birth, sometimes I've ridden with my preceptor, or I tell her, you go first and let me know that you are there. So then I can come, because I'm afraid to get out of my car at some places. I mean, in the backwoods of Louisiana, that's probably right to have, but I've never had any run-ins. Oddly enough, in the city, I went outside to like get something. This is when I was still assisting, and I saw a white lady like out of her blind. She saw me, I saw her. I'm like, oh crap! And she like hit her car alarm. She's like beep beep on the car, and I was like, I am not breaking into this car. Like, I am not stealing this car. Somebody's having a baby over there, and she needs an oxygen
I am
tank.
a medical provider. Supporting a birth. Yeah.
But that's literally been the only run-in I've had. And I think that's something that my preceptors have been very aware of. Like, you're the only Black person, and we're going into God knows where, Louisiana, so.
But you have safe providers. You have safe, aware providers.
Absolutely, 1000%. That hasn't been an issue with me, thankfully, prayerfully. But again, that just goes to like this very smooth pathway where other people cannot say the same, not even a little bit.
How long did midwifery school take you?
Midwifery school took me 2 years, and I overlapped it. So the second year of school and the first year of my apprenticeship, they overlapped.
Right.
Yeah.
And then how many years in apprenticeship?
I think this has been, how old is my son? 2.5 years.
Okay.
2.5 years, because my son is 3.5, or maybe 3 years. Because my son was about 6 months when I started my apprenticeship, because he came with me, of course.
So like 4 years total.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. That sounds about.
That's a pretty average amount of time. I say that just because some people literally, expect to finish school in 2 years, and school and precepting, in 2 years, and or they're afraid it's going to take 7, and I think that it's important to talk about the realistic time frame of. But you took a nursing baby with you to births.
Yeah, 2 of them. 2
babies.
I've had 3 kids during this whole time. My first baby was very little when I decided to step up and answer the call. She was maybe 6 months. And then I started school, got pregnant, and I was like, okay, I'm pregnant. I remember like my baby being 1 and telling my husband, like, if we're going to try again, we need to do it right now.
Right.
Because he'll be old enough to like go to a sitter to where I feel comfortable when I get to the point of going to birth. Like, he'll be old enough. And my husband was like, we're not having a baby right now. I'm like, bump that, give it up, brother. So we did have the baby. And then COVID happened. Like, he was like 1 or maybe like 18 months or somewhere in there, somewhere between 12 and 18 months. And COVID happened, and that kind of slowed things down a bit. And then we had a pandemic baby. So then that slowed things down a lot, because now I'm like 9 months pregnant. I probably stopped going to births when I was 7.5, 8 months pregnant. So I was big pregnant at births. Yeah.
But you don't regret the family like your family growth and midwifery school? I mean, how does that, looking back on it, would you recommend other students?
No. Oh,
do,
God,
don't,
no.
what?
That was a crazy thing to do. Looking back, I'm like, how did I do that? Like, I feel like this time frame right now where things are really slow for me as it pertains to birth is the postpartum period I was looking for. Because I did not get that after I had my baby. I remember she was 8 weeks old, and I was back at birth. I was back at birth because I'm on the grind. I am in my primary phase. I don't have time for this. I have to finish. So I probably could have done without the 3rd baby.
I could have.
Yeah, like that. I probably could have, spaced that out a little better, but it was, I 10 out of 10 do not recommend that.
No.
And mostly because I have a really good support system, and that is not the case for everybody.
Mm-mm.
My husband is a teacher, so he's off on the weekends. He's
home
off
at night.
all major holidays,
Right.
he's home at night, right? The only weird time for me is this weird time of like, if you
Getting
have
to
your
school
baby
in the
at
morning
3
or
a.m.
something.
and 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a weird time frame. But even then, I would drop them off at like other clients' house. Like clients who had baby would be like, if you need me to keep your baby, drop your baby off here.
That's a community. Damn.
People have nursed my baby. People have, so it's been really good. But I don't recommend having a baby and doing an apprenticeship at the same time. And again, my preceptor was like, oh, you need to bring your baby? Okay, fine.
Again, that is not every preceptor, right?
No, not at all.
And so do you have any advice for people looking for a preceptor? I mean, I know your journey to find one was easy, but if you had to have done it difficult, right? If you had to like interview a bunch of preceptors and like make sure they were safe, and what would that look like for you again?
God, because now I am experiencing this.
Mm-hmm.
Do not email random strangers on the internet. I have gotten so many emails from like random people. I have no idea who you are. And that is weird to me. That's weird to me because I feel like if I meet you in person and we have a connection, and then like you say, I'm actually interested, I'm going to be the person that says, we should go and get coffee, or we should sit down and talk. But to email me, I literally got an email that said, hi, I'm a student in X place and I need a preceptor, so I'm asking you, but you need to have liability insurance of $1 million for me to come. And I was like, what is, I don't even know you. I have no idea who you are. This is a very random thing to say. And I guess if you do,
sounds like they're having a hard time finding a preceptor because no preceptor has liability insurance of over $1 million.
$1 million?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, sure.
It's like $2,500 a month.
And the school is requiring this, but that's also another barrier, right? And then people are like holding out hope for a Black preceptor, and I'm just like, go somewhere where you can learn, even if it's not with a Black preceptor, because the culture lives within us, right? And that's what people are yearning, to be in a culturally competent space. But the culture lives within us. Black people are amazing and awesome, on our own. We don't need someone to teach us how to be culturally sound with our clients. We don't need
your own people. Yeah, totally.
Yes, we don't need that. We need somebody to teach us how to disimpact the shoulders, right? That's what we need people to teach us. So go where you can to learn what you need to know. And if that place does not serve you, be ready and willing to move on. Because we are not here for a long time. We're here for a good time, right? We are here to get what we need to know and move on. So be thinking about that. Always be thinking about, if this goes south, then where, how do I pivot? Always be really willing and ready to pivot, and get your signatures up front. I don't care what the paperwork says. You get your signatures as you need your signatures. And if they are withholding that signature, that is a red flag. Please be aware of the red flags. If you have been with your preceptor and you are the assistant at birth and not as a paid assistant and not the student assistant, that is a red flag. Stop taking the money and tell her you want to be the student who gets the number, right?
Why can't we have both? Why can't we be paid student midwives that get the money and get the signatures?
That is another hour-long conversation.
I know. There's a lot. And I've said this tons of times in these podcasts with other students. I don't know if you feel this, but this generation, us, we're going to be different. We are going to be different for our students. We're going to be different for our families. We're going to be different for midwifery laws, right? When we're 40 and we're tired and we're ready. There is a new wave. And I hate that our preceptors maybe had to fight a different fight. Right. But we are going to watch out for students. We're going to create safe spaces.
Have you heard that saying of in midwifery we eat our young?
Yep. Yep.
Why is that? When I saw that, I was like, what are we?
We're women.
What type of
Unfortunately,
people
most of us are women. And my husband's a nurse, and he's like, I don't get it. But in the hospital, these nurses are backstabbing, eat their young. And he's like, and it seems like it's the women-led fields. And so I don't know where that went wrong, because you would think historically we would band together as women.
Yes.
In our tribes and in our spaces, we would band together and we would weave together and nurse each other's babies and get the things we needed. And now it's a threat, because in my opinion, we have adopted the patriarchal threat image, right?
Absolutely. The invisible threat that possibly doesn't even exist in most places. And I'm just like, I do not want. Say hi. Hi.
Hi, gorgeous.
Okay, go. This is my oldest. She's 5. She comes to prenatals with me sometimes, and now she can take your heart tones, and we're learning how to check blood pressure. So we are doing the things, okay? It is
and no one, and what your mom and I are trying to work at doing is making sure that there is no woman that will not support you.
Exactly. And I don't know. I'm like, I don't want to eat my young. I am yearning for somebody else. I'm like, what can I do to help you? I am going to randomly call you and text you to make sure you are on top of your game. If you say you want to go be a midwife assistant and you're going to go do the school thing, I'm going to make sure you went. Did you apply? How are you paying for this? I needed to take the NRP this summer. I called everybody I knew.
You going?
Black and interested in birth. We are going to the NRP.
Yep.
This is how much it costs. This is the date. I need to see your asses in the seats. Okay. I'm like, no, I do not want to eat my young. Listen, I am the mama cub. Okay. I'm going to protect all the little cublets that come behind me from everybody else who's trying to eat the young.
It is a different generation, though.
Yeah,
I mean, it isn't just you. It is 100% this generation of students who
I think so.
are experience. I mean, it is like a just over and over and over and over again. I hear this. I'm going to be different. I am going to be different. I'm going to be different. And so I don't know, maybe one day I'll interview a midwife and be like, did you ever say that back when you were a student?
Yes, I would love for you to ask somebody
right
that.
Like, did you say you were going to be different to your students, and then you just along the way got angry and mad and bitter? You know, I don't know. But so how's your NARM prep going? What are all of the tips?
Oh my God. The tips are,
because by the time we launch this, you might have already passed it. And
oh my God, that's so crazy to say. Stop saying
that. Okay. Never mind. I have an idea.
Oh my God. My preceptor is like, I don't know why you're worried about it. I'm like, what do you mean? I have to pass it. It's so much so that like the kids are like, why'd you put that book up? Right? Where's your book?
Whoa.
I might be over obsessing about it a little bit. I'm trying not to. I'm reading Hearts and Hands. I have person who's pregnant right now who risks out of care pretty early, but I'm invested at this point. So I'm learning so much from being their doula midwife. Okay. I'm learning so much. Things about like amniocentesis and crap like that. Things that I don't know. That's beyond midwifery, right? So I'm like, oh my God, I haven't picked up Anne Fry in God knows how long. So while I'm here, let me just scour
Look at those tables. Let me find that table.
Yes. So, it's kind of like where the books are scattered and it doesn't make sense to anybody else. And you got all the sticky notes and the flashcards and the highlighters and the pens and the pencils. And then somebody touches something because they're cleaning up. And you're like, why did you touch my stuff? I was on page 1962. And so I'm kind of there. I'm
Are
there.
you doing any study guides or like online
Somebody
NARM
sent-
preps?
This is so funny. Somebody sent me some study guides. I think they sent me 4. I took the first one and I failed it. And I was like, nope, I cannot do that again. Somehow psychologically that
You're
just
like,
does not
that made me
sit
feel
right
like
in my,
it's not working.
yeah, I'm like, no, I didn't like that method. And I used to be so smart before I had babies. I don't think people realize that, like, you know, once you have a baby, your brain is just baby, right? And I used to could be able to read something and I could regurgitate it like nothing, right? It used to freak my mom out. And now I'm like, no, I'm gonna have to read this 6 more times.
It's also COVID. COVID brain is a real thing. And I think it killed many blood cells or brain cells. And we're all like, am I drunk? Am I high? No, it's COVID.
I'm like, yeah. So I am knee deep in my studying. I'm always up in the middle of the night, because I'm nursing, but also because I'm studying. Literally when I sit on the toilet, if I'm gonna take a 5 extra minutes and like do the flashcards, like do 5 minutes of flashcards. If I'm in the car, I live in Slidell. We go to New Orleans for work.
I'm
gonna do the flashcards. Yeah, I'm gonna do the flashcards on the drive. So I may be overdoing it, but also I am a doer. My hands need to be doing something. Mm-hmm. So I'm always like, oh yeah. And I'm always like, can I feel your pelvis? Or, you know, everything is a learning opportunity. So if somebody is talking about something, I'm like, can I ask a question? Or I just learned this really cool thing. Do you mind if I tell you? Because I learn in real time, yes. Right? Which is why midwifery works.
Right, right.
You
it's
learn
that
on
model.
the job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh my God, this has nothing to do with this, but I just thought about it. Can I please tell you this is how I study? People are probably quite sick of me, right?
So your test is tomorrow.
I mean, basically.
It's scheduled for tomorrow.
No, it's not. I made that up. I'm getting my paperwork signed tomorrow so they can schedule it for Friday. That's what I said.
Okay. So that's Friday, August 6th. Is that what that day is? Oh, hold on.
Yeah. They
Friday,
won't
August
have it
5th.
No, NARM won't give me a turnaround time that quickly, will they?
What the results?
No, to schedule the test.
Oh no, yeah, no.
Okay.
So once you turn it in, you could be approved.
That's just wishful
take the
thinking,
test, and then you can schedule it, and then it's sometimes like a month.
So it's just wishful thinking that they'll just go ahead and do it, right? Yeah,
well,
but okay.
What would you like to say to yourself?
Because I'm gonna have to come back and listen to this.
Yes.
Failing is not failing. Failing is learning. So if you did not pass it that first time, that's fine. We just learned how to take it a second time, and that's okay. That's okay.
That is okay.
That's okay.
Some people take it 4 times before they figure out how to do it.
Oh my God. Mm-hmm. If I have to take it 4 times, I'm probably not going to take it a 4th time. Maybe a 2nd time. But it's going to be 6 months before I take it that 2nd time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it gets more and more stressful the longer it takes because you're not practicing, right? It's like more and more time.
Yeah.
But this season I've been focusing on students that just graduated and are like have taken the NARM or about to take the NARM.
Yeah.
And so I've learned a couple tidbits from them.
Okay.
And so 2 things that I'll share with you. The first is that most of the questions are choose the best answer.
Okay.
So it'll be something like they've lost so much, blah, 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 blood. Choose the best answer. And there could be 2 or 3 answers that could work, right? Like one's like, give miso, give pit, give Angelica.
Okay.
And you're like, which one do I do? Right? Choose the best answer. And the one that is like the most conservative.
Okay, so that's what I keep hearing. So when I'm studying, I'm like, okay, if it's give miso, give pit, and give Angelica, obviously I'm going to give the Angelica, but they want me to give the pit.
Right.
So that's
That's the hard part. That is the hard part, is that you may not actually do that because this test doesn't always take into account, well, how much bleeding is it? What's the client's preferences here, right? Like there's a lot of things going on. But yeah, like transfer or rub frankincense oil on the baby.
We're going to transfer.
Right? Like, so that's one tidbit. The second is you can apply for, if you feel like you have ADHD, anxiety, test taking anxiety, you can apply to split the test into 2 parts in 2 days.
I did not know this, and this is the information. Okay, listen. So I was one of those people, I just told you, if I read it once, I knew it. And I took AP biology and anatomy and physiology in high school, to the point that my A&P teacher was like, you're just going to be the co-teacher because like I literally got 100 on everything. He's like, I cannot put 100 on your report card, but I'm like, but you can, and you're going to put the 100 down. Yeah. Because it was just my jam. I love human bodies, right? I'm obsessed. It's my favorite thing ever. To the point that when my husband dies and he's going to go first, I'm going to take his pelvis out of his body and keep it. Not. I am. I tell him that all the time. He needs to put it in his will. That's how obsessed I am with like bodies. Okay. And like, I knew all of this stuff, right? And I get ready to take the ACT, and I totally bombed the ACT. And my mom is like, how? What happened? And I'm just like, I was so nervous. And they said C was the best answer. So for half the test, I just put C. They said statistically C is the right answer. So for at least half the test, I put C. And my mom is like, okay, we have to figure something else out. Yeah. So I remember taking like a practice test ACT of like the second go around, and I scored a perfect score. And my mom was like, this makes no sense. I'm like,
because it wasn't a real test. It wasn't real. It was fake. You had time. Pressure. It wasn't. Yeah. So I am consider going to apply for this. I need that, because with like, I can take it over 2 days. That's fine. With the less stress, I can do it. And I can think clearly. And and I'm like, that's how I am in birth. In the moment, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a second. Who is that says you put your butt on the floor and breathe in the respiration? She does NRP. Karen Strange.
Karen Strange, yes.
But I think it's feel your feet on the floor. Feel your feet on the ground.
I've been saying that wrong for so long, because I definitely like, let me put my butt on the floor, and I like metaphorically put my butt on the floor, and I take a deep breath. You could be bleeding, but in order for me to manage your hemorrhage, I need to take that breath. And once I take that breath, I'm going to save your life.
Well, and fast is slow and slow is fast, right?
Absolutely.
So if we're like running around, yelling at people, throwing things across the room, like we are going to have a big problem. But if we're like, okay, I'm going to take my glove off so I can draw this pit better, because I know I'm going to be better at that. And I'm going to slow. And it's like 10 times faster, right? So feel your feet on the ground, but the other thing too, I
can't believe it's feel your feet on the ground. No, literally, I'm always like, you put your butt on the ground, like that one lady says. I've been telling other people to put their butt on the ground.
But maybe it works for you. But for me, if it were that, I'd be like, how do I?
If Karen Strange is listening, I'm so sorry. I'm butchering such a great thing. I'm gonna rectify the issue.
But it worked for you. That's all she wants. That's all she wants, is for people to ground and breathe before they manage the risk.
That's so funny. Oh my God, how embarrassing.
But the last thing is try to like take a study vacation right before the test. Like, do not study up until the day. This information. Like you just said, this information. So the day before the test, do not open a book. Go have fun. Go enjoy the day. Go somewhere you love. Just like we tell women
Yeah.
That
Yes.
are 41 weeks.
Yes.
And they're wanting this baby to come out. We don't tell them to go stress out of it. And honestly, I don't know if you do, but I don't tell them to go try all these things. I'm like,
no,
go be yummy, go be full of oxygen, go watch funny movies, be happy, be in a place that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Because that's going to work. And Chae, it's the same for you. Go feel good because
I'm drinking all of this in because I need somebody once a week to tell me like to relax about it. I really do. Because it's gotten to the point where I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
We might be
totally.
A bit. Yeah.
And like, so manage how much you study,
Yeah.
Maybe it's that.
For sure.
So what advice would you give someone wanting to become a midwife in Louisiana?
Oh God, do it.
Please do it.
Do it. Don't hesitate. Don't take your time. Don't think about it. Don't do any of that. If you have woken up from a dream and you say, and somebody in that dream told you go be a midwife, you say, great, let me go to school today. I'm going to apply today. Don't wait until tomorrow. If you drag your feet, you're going to drag your ass. Don't wait. Do it. Mostly because we need you. We can count all the midwives on our hands, literally, maybe 3 of them. And why are you waiting? Are you waiting for the statistics to change? Because they aren't.
Because you need to be the statistics to change.
Exactly. Are you waiting for the Black preceptor? Don't do that. That's dumb. Okay. Because sure, go halfway across the state, right? Don't wait for the Black preceptor. Don't wait until your kids get older and you have more time. Don't do that. Just do it. Because even if you start today and it takes you 7 years to finish, you still started today. Put your best foot forward, make a decision, and just do it. And along the way, you're just going to find so many people and you're like, okay, I'm gonna keep going because I ran into you, right? Or I'm gonna keep going because you're gonna have a 3rd baby and I have to be there for the birth, right?
Yes.
You're going to bump into those people. So it really is just do it.
Do it.
And I'm an Aquarius. I'm the wrong person to ask because I'm going to encourage everybody. If you think you can fly, go jump off the house, please. Okay. I want to see you do it. I'm going to be waiting at the bottom, but I want to see you at least try because the most you can do is get it wrong. Right. And that's okay. We have so much life to live that we're wasting time waiting to live it.
Well, and that has not been the narrative for 15 years, probably more, for people thinking about becoming midwives. Yep. The narrative has been, wait till you're done having a family. Yep. The narrative has been, what are you going to do for me to prove that this is serious? How much muck work can I put you through until you prove to me that this is serious, right? Or, no, I need you to go be a doula, be a birth assistant, do unpaid work for this blank amount of time before trying it, or being laughed at because they haven't had kids yet.
Yep.
Right.
Oh,
and so
that's a big one.
It's a big one.
Yes.
There has been more barriers put up by midwives.
Yep.
That are blatant and in your face and verbal and abusive and lateral violence than there has been by the obstetric patriarchy of the medical complex.
And which is so crazy. But yes, have a plan, save your money, find a good support system. But honestly, I am a big proponent of if you build it, they will come. Mm-hmm. One thing I was taught by my granddad, I want to say it's a James Brown song, but if you can't, what is it like? If you can't go through the door, go through the window. Don't let anybody stop you and stand in your way. Damn sure don't let it be another midwife standing in your way, right? You move right around, homegirl, and you keep going. Do not let these people get in your way. And if you are a Black student, definitely don't let no white woman stand in your way. Like, I would honestly be like, girl, what are you doing? And if you need a pep talk, I promise you, my number is the one to dial. I literally had to give a pep talk to another student who lives across the state. And I'm like, you live on the Texas border. Why are we having this conversation, baby? Okay. Because I would have hopped, skipped, and jumped over there a long time ago.
Speaking of,
what are you doing?
How can people find you? What's your IG, your Facebook, your YouTube, your Venmo, your Cash App, your website?
I don't have a YouTube. So many people have been pushing the YouTube thing. I am not well versed in that. I do have my own podcast, homecomingpodcast.com, where we tell the stories of Black families who birth at home and in love. Hashtag welcome home. Hashtag welcome Black home. So Homecoming Podcast is definitely a thing. We're on a little sabbatical right now because both of us are midwifery students. So that's interesting. Yeah. You can also find all of my birth stories on Homecoming Podcast, all three of them. You can find me on Facebook at Chae Pounds, but honestly, getting into my Facebook is like getting into a club. Okay, like everybody is waiting in line.
I know. I think I got in like 2 years ago and was watching your lives, and I was like the only white woman on your lives, and I was like, am I allowed to be here? And then I was like, I'm staying. This is how I become a safe person. Like, I stay.
It is. That is exactly it. No, somebody literally has to be standing next to me. Like, I'm sending you a friend request right now. And please accept my friend request. Because I post my kids on there, I'm more like tight about my Facebook. Follow me on Instagram. I need to make people always follow me on Instagram for like birthy content. That's not what's there. It's like me cursing and my kids, and sometimes a repost from some other midwife. But I'm Chae, CHAE, the Supreme, where supreme beings go to have supreme beings. What? You can find me there. My business page is Supreme Midwifery. I don't post a single thing on there. It's literally just for show. My Cash App is Chae the Midwife. My Cash App is Midwife Chae. My Venmo is Chae, CHAE Pounds, capital POUNDS, like how much you weigh. Following me anywhere, it literally is like me being a mom. It's never really midwifery heavy. That's not my jam. I share things and I rant and I curse. So if you are, if you have sensitive ears, I'm definitely not the place for you. But yeah, you can follow me all of those places. I love to interact with people. It takes me 3 days to DM you back, but I do eventually get around, or it takes us months to book this podcast, but I do eventually get back around. I love talking to people. I actually posted a question on my Facebook and my Instagram today just to like gauge people. You get a midwifery thing out of me every now and then, but I love to reserve that for my clients. That energy is specific for them. So but reach out to me. I'm happy to do all the things. Yeah.